Καλώς ήρθαμε. Πολύ χαίρομαι που είμαστε εδώ για αυτή την κουβέντα σήμερα. Θα συνεχίσουμε στα αγγλικά σε λίγο, αφού έχουμε μερικές διαφορετικές γλώσσες στο group μας και μιλάμε σε μείγμα γλωσσών. Αλλά αυτό συνδέεται με το θέμα μας σήμερα. Η πόλη έχει λαλιά στις διαφορετικές γλώσσες, έχει καινούριες ιδέες, καινούριες ταυτότητες. Είμαστε όλες και όλοι κομμάτι της πόλης και την φτιάχνουμε όλες και όλοι μαζί. Πάμε λοιπόν. We're going to talk about active citizenship as a concept and a practice in Athens as part of this series of talks on society uncensored. This talk relates to some of the previous talks and builds on those conversations. And this is an amazing group of people. We've got so much experience thinking with these questions, working with these issues. We have different focuses, but I feel that in some ways we're all part of the same circle, not just this circle, but the same circle in the city generally. And all the different citizenship struggles we're talking about are related and are connected. And maybe from these different movements, a kind of emergent Athenian citizenship comes forward from these circles and these relations. So really excited to be having this conversation with you all today. We'll start just by introducing ourselves. So I'm Tom.
I am Ayman.
I'm Teresa.
I'm Vangelis.
I'm Milvi.
I am Elena.
I'm Michael.
I'm Kira.
Great. So let's start with the idea. What do we mean by active citizenship? What is active citizenship? Who'd like to get us started?
Actually, I see the active citizenship, it's a very big, huge idea because from my experience, I started in Greece from 2018 and I start to try and find my way and to do what I like to do in the city and feel more comfortable and belong to this city I choose to live on it. The active citizen, I see it's like how you like to support yourself and to support all the people in your community. You choose to live with it from many different backgrounds, from many different methods or culture or language, and to create something new because it will be new.
I think for me, active citizen is someone who kind of feels that the environment can be changed based on his ideas. Someone who can dream, who can think of a future and actually finds practical ways, technocratical ways based on the reality that we are living in order to achieve something that sometimes might seem utopia at first.
In my mind, I guess when we define who is an active citizen, we should first define who is a citizen for us. So, like we have the dominant narrative of what the state says that a citizen is, which is like a person who has like a link to the state and that the state decides to attribute specific rights and obligation based on this relationship. In like my world and in my work, they are like active citizens, the people that we are in this community and we like envisage our future together and we think and we try to bring change together.
It's like taking that restrictive language of the state and inverting it and saying, actually, I believe we are all citizens together. We are the ones making the city.
Maybe the key word is active. I mean, the state has given you some rights, some obligations, but you know you are a passive recipient. But being an active person, being an active citizen, means that you take action for yourself, for your community, and that you try to find ways to build something collectively and make this city, if we're talking about Athens, a little better.
You know, when we started talking about this issue, also between us, some days ago, I started rethinking of what is, to my mind, active citizenship, because we always use it but it was never a phrase I like because it has this burden, this political burden of something very specific. That the good citizen is the very active citizen that will go out, will be very happy in the city and so on. Whereas an active citizen is not only that, is the one that reacts, that demands, that creates. And in order to sort of figure out what this is for me, I started thinking of when it was the first time that I was an active citizen in my life. And that was, I realized, it's a funny story my mother tells me every now and then, that when I was 8, I gathered the kids of the neighborhood and told them, we don't have a playground. We need to go to the mayor and demand a playground. And we made a painting. We all signed it, demanding with our what we demanded. And we went outside his house because he lives in the same neighborhood. So we went outside his house and we made a small protest asking for a playground. So I guess that it's a funny story, but somehow it was this reaction to what you don't have or what you need or what you want to create.
For me, an active citizen is someone who is a member of the community he's representing and he's serving. He's not a visitor. He's not there just to take pictures or for a short project. He's a member of the community. He knows people very well. He had dinner with them. He had coffee with them. He knows their problems, their culture.
So we've been talking a little bit about needs and how this idea of active citizenship maybe comes from a need and recognizing, identifying that need. Do you think that that is an essential part of this process? That's where the motivation to be an active citizen comes from?
For me, it's primal. It's because I think everything starts with a question. Why is this happening? Like if something happens in your normality of your life, and suddenly you realize that what is happening, it doesn't help you at all to live a life that you dream of. You live, and there you have emotions, and thought, and logic. And probably you don't have knowledge of anything, but you have a sense of injustice, a sense that something is not right. And that sense is what drives you slowly in a journey where you learn details, you learn how things are functioning. And you learn how to be an active citizen. You are not an active citizen at the beginning. At the beginning, you're just a baby where you sense that something is not right, and then you start questions. Why is that? Why is that? But that doesn't help my need. As you know, I can't blossom in that environment. I cannot grow. I cannot dream. I cannot travel. I cannot feel free. So when these boundaries are like gauging on, you want to break them down.
It's like for me, I see it when you don't wait. Just I start to see myself, I am active. When I see really I am alone, no one here, it's like take care about my future, about my stuff. Here, it's like I say, I promise myself I will start to do something to make a change. Start from myself and share with another people. It's like to make it more bigger and bigger. And to share our voice, to say, it's like we are here.
I feel like this recognizing your own need and seeing it in the other, it's that we come from our own need, or we come from recognizing the need in another, but then when we meet each other in this space, we can recognize how, our collective world is at stake. We can all know that from the different needs we see and we feel like.
I would agree that it's a matter of perception, it's a matter of perspective. In this room, some people have experienced the injustice, some others have only witnessed it, but it's a matter of how you perceive yourself. You're okay if you are coming from a middle class, from Athens like myself, and you see that others are experiencing injustices, or you want to act for this?
The city itself is a playground of debate, of needs, of politics. So I think that in this specific playground, we need to play very, very well, because this is where we can put all these elements that you all very nicely described before. And yes, we do become active citizens through identifying needs, but I think it's also asking about more. It's more than just basic needs. I don't believe that we need to fight just in order to have food and a roof, which are highly important, and I know that people next to us don't have them right now. However, I don't dream of a society in which we will only cover this. I believe in culture, in arts, in entertainment, in holidays, in the right to all of this. So it's not about only identifying needs, it's also about identifying and claiming our rights.
It seems to me that there's a lot of creativity in this process, because it's about imagining something differently and then working collectively and like in this kind of relational solidarity to get there, not waiting for generations. Like, we can't wait for that. It's doing it together, collectively, creatively, in the moment. But this point about the city is really interesting, right? Does citizenship at a city level help us to think about things like community differently than citizenship at the kind of state or national level? And like, how does that work? What does that look like?
My experience and in the process of active citizenship, let's say, had to do with the city functions and the rules and the regulations and the laws. Like, for example, in 2000, there weren't any laws about youths with a migrant background that they were born here. So there was kind of like a racism, but in the state, in a form of constitution, a constitutional racism that kind of like surpassed, pressure you down to another situation, that it wasn't sustainable. So you had to work it out with the city rules. You have to, find people inside the city, collective groups, teams that they were kind of like discussing this issue, or even creating teams to discuss the issue, because probably some had the same issue, but there weren't never a table, a round circle where they could discuss as we discuss right now, and so that they can realize that there are also other people that have the same issue or the same problem or the same objective, maybe with kind of like changes. So that momentum of building awareness within us, but also to the city, because when you have an issue or you have a need to cover, it doesn't mean that the city, the environment you are, knows about that. You don't expect everybody to know your problem. So you have to create mechanisms and strategies so that you can inform the people what is going on. And then slowly, the city realized what goes on and starting debating in a huge and more round, bigger scale. And then suddenly, a law is changed.
And sometimes we don't need to imagine things. I mean, like, sometimes we talk about how this would be, but this is what it is. I mean, if you look at Athens and you look at its neighborhoods, it's already there, it's happening. We just need to embrace it and like learn more about it and get involved in it. And like talking as like a Greek person, that my friends are Greek, my family is Greek, blah, blah, blah. It's something that like we need to open up, it's out there. It's like we need to imagine a better world and a better future for everyone, but there is a wonderful reality out there in the city.
And something we need is consistency. Consistency and time in many cases. So also in relation to our work at Victoria Square Project, this is one of the things that in relation to my previous jobs, my previous work, in this specific time, I really thought that we will stay here. We will stay for some years to see, try, evolve. We do art, we do contemporary art. I don't expect suddenly, Victoria Square or the entire 6th district of Athens to come there and tell us, oh, Niovi, you brought us the revelation of contemporary art. The true people of our community, they have real problems. They have the needs still. They have very serious needs. And during the quarantine, when we were telling them, oh, we are doing these contemporary art projects, come and participate, And we were talking with stakeholders from the communities, and they were telling us, Njovi, we are very happy you're doing that, because right now the thing we have to do is daily go to the local police stations in order to have our people released, because they are caught every day and they are taken for no reason to the police station, because our communities, we need to collect food and basic needs for our communities. And we think that it's important what you do. We don't have time to do it, so let's collaborate.
I see there is a big movement it's creating now in Athens, and we will hold it together. I am proud of you guys.
We are proud of you too. I agree with all you guys. It's very important to cover all the daily needs of a community and to do things with art to empower the community and to make this circle of trust and do things to help each other. But I'll agree more with Michael. You need to go a little bit further outside the circle. And you need to understand how you can influence the government, ministries, people who make decisions. I have a good example about that I would like to share with you. Among other, I am also a volunteer art educator in the Red Umbrella Center. Red Umbrella is a new project. It is organized by Positive Voice Association. It's people with HIV positive people. And the idea is to have a center in Omonia, a place where sex workers are around. And there, these people, men, women, transgender people who work in sex, they can go, they can have advice from doctors, lawyers, social workers. They can go there, relax, stay close, have makeup, and this is what I do. I try to encourage them to empower through art. And this is really, they have seen a really big change in the community. They know where to ask for help, and it's really good. But this is not what they do. The advocacy group, they try to influence hospitals, doctors, universities, ministries. And you will see, we have wrote down all these changes. If you can see, read the articles, people in Greece, they don't anymore use words like whore or prostitute. It's a word, a new word, the sex workers, and it's because this team changed the idea in a very short period and make the society understand it's not just trafficking, or it's people who have for a reason been there, and it's their right to be in this, to work in this, let's say, as of sex workers. So you need to go a little bit further of your circle, because if you stay too long in this circle, then you probably isolate your community, the refugees, the LGBTQ or whatever. We need to focus outside the circle.
That's very powerful, thank you. Which leads us really nicely to the question of methods, I think. You know, how exactly? I mean, we all have a lot of experience. We all work for organizations, multiple organizations, some of us. How do we amplify those demands? What strategies, what practices, how do we expand those solidarities? Let's talk a bit specifically about the groups that we either have founded or we work with, and talk about the specific methods that we use to do these things.
I would like to continue and have a great experience that I have with the Syrian-Greek Forum. In that idea I shared before, you need to focus in an institutional level and not forget to join them. So I remember two years ago, it was this program, and from the ministry we call it θεματική εβδομάδα. It's for a week. The high school schools will have to deal with to work on a particular idea, just like the LGBTQ rights, the democracy. And I was talking with guys from the forum. I said, why don't you come and teach us about democracy? And actually they came to my school, and they shared their experience as people who have suffered because of the country lose the democratic values. And it was really blessing to see people that we are, until that moment, used to see them as people in need, Now they were in the front line in a school, a public school, and they were teaching children about democracy.
Thank you so much. I appreciate. It's like always we look at each other, we are one. It's like there is not different level between us, all we are as a human being. And I want to share some short story about my experience with the Syrian Greek Youth Forum. I started with them in 2018. We focus about media. We have a media lab. We also participate in many projects, radio project and another videos, movie. Also we focus about culture. We have a band music. We have theater. We teach Syrian dance and Greek dance and hip hop also. Myself, I am volunteer also with the Red Cross. I teach the kids Arabic language from 2019. Also, I teach Syrian dance with the music Karama band. It's like all this organization, all the team, let's say I work with it, it's like teach me a lot of things to help myself and to find my way how to be active and how to share everything.
The example of Ayman, it's a great one, how a person does not put himself in a circle of an organization and don't see what else happening outside of this. Organization Earth is a hybrid, as we used to say, organization. It's an organization dedicated to promote sustainable development in urban centers, and what we are doing is to promote this through experiential learning. From our point of view as an organization, what we are trying to do is to find different ways to promote cooperation, collaboration, to find ways to connect the community.
I think that a main method for like creating active citizenship for me is like shared ownership, so having community spaces and spaces where we can all meet and come together, because if we can't meet each other and if we can't find people that we are like-minded, how can we become active? Like, I can't be in a room on my own and be active. I should be with other people who like believe and have the same vision as me. So I think that community spaces, social spaces, squads, all these kinds of like shared ownership are like very, very important to meet each other and have a space where we feel safe no matter like who we are or what we do. So this would be one thing for sure. And then a very like important like method for me is like putting the law in the hands of the people. So law is something which is like, it's very technical, it's very complicated, it's very expensive. If you want legal assistance, you should mainly have money or like be lucky to have access to free legal advice. So basically making the law simple, like putting these like very technical scripts which only like experts can have access is like something very important, and have a community space where this can happen is even more important. So giving the legal information to the people, to the community who need it, in very simple words, I think it's very important, and it's part of it's a pathway for constitutional change.
So I'm here from the Echo Mobile Library. Echo is a library that's in the back of a van, and we have books in 11 languages. So we have like Little Women in Turkish, and we have Kafka in Arabic, and we have materials also for learning languages, so learning English, Greek, German, Karamanji, everything. So that, you know, when you're doing, say, Cora also has a social kitchen, which our library visits, and we have community building activities there just through loaning books and having a chat about the book and sharing a free meal, you know. That's great. There we can meet each other. But we also need to be connected with people who are fighting for change.
I'm founder of an organization called Anasa Cultural Center. It started as an African African theater troupe, where we're doing drums and dance, but I was the only black there. But at the end, we evolved into an NGO around 2011. And from then on, we are doing projects that has to do with the empowerment of African artists born here and refugees and migrants. I think that the methodology changes and it's based on the objective that you have each time. When I see this organization, how it started, I saw that the first methodology that had to be changed, had to be at least created, was to understand what is civil society first. Understand what is civil society, understand its functions and where it can go. Then create the tools, create the capacity for the organization to do things. Now, it's not, maybe it's a concept that we just surpassed, but the capacity, it's a time-consuming situation. You have to study, you have to read, you have to have trials and errors, ideas that doesn't work, but sometimes work, in order to kind of like articulate your idea, especially when you're a grassroots organization and you have zero budget, no budget, and your idea is kind of like community engagement, community empowerment, and how then you utilize how you create new future leaders. Because Ωνάση Cultural Center derived from a very specific movement. And that's why I cannot say about everything, about eco, global, I can say only about the rights of the second generation of the youth that they were born here. From that movement it derived and it came on. As a tool, a tool on how I can enter into the schools, how I can enter in public space, how I can enter in places where it's kind of like red zone, but I can speak about racism without speaking about racism. Art has that capacity, so I use art in order to speak about things and, somehow pinpoint issues.
So, whenever I talk about citizenship in relation also to our work at Victoria Square Project, I can never forget also who our team is and how we work, not only inside Victoria Square Project, but also as individuals. Because me personally, arriving in Victoria Square Project as its director and curator of a program, a long-term program that I designed along with the team, is called Who is the Contemporary Athenian? And I think that's the point of departure of this question mark is the point that really defines us. We don't have the answers. We ask people to come and find them together. And because the most important thing for me is that we are not from the side of the philanthropist. We are not the one that we love people, but we don't do philanthropy in Victoria Square Project. We ask for collaborators. We ask for partners inside our local community. Our neighbors need to respect us, and we will respect them. If somebody doesn't respect us, personally or as an institution, we don't need to give this back to them.
Another thing which is important for me is to be self-aware and be aware of our privileges if we want to be active in a community with other people. I think that this is knowing who we are and where we come from and how we need to use these privileges to support others or leave these privileges aside is something very important, and it's not always comfortable. I mean, as as a person that I'm white, I speak Greek. I have realized that in some situations I need to feel uncomfortable in order to come closer with some people. I remember that last year in the International Women's Day, I chose to go to an event which was organized by the Congolese community, and they were all French speakers from Congo. I don't speak French, but I chose that on that day I want to be with them. I don't want to be with my Greek friends. I went to the march and then I went to this event. I just spoke and played with the kids. It wasn't very comfortable, but I offered some time and some effort to be in a community that I felt that I wanted to support at that moment.
Yeah, actually, how I say we should to learn more from each other, to hear from each other, to share many things. It's because not all of us we know everything about our experience, our childhood, where we brought. We should to hear from each other and to cross many borders because we are all human beings. And it's like, for me, the life is so short. And let's do the good thing. Yeah.
For sure. And I think, I mean, we've been talking about this, but to make sure that there aren't these lines drawn between these ideas of like citizenship or citizen and migrant, Athenian and refugee, like these categories don't help us, right? We need to connect all of these movements, like what we call in Greek, like to kínημα is like the political movement, right? But it also needs to include kínηση, like the movement of people. What challenges do we face though? Because none of this is easy. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of struggle. What are some of the big challenges that we are facing in trying to do this? Elena.
I have, in a way, let's say, the privilege that I also work for the authorities, and at the same time, I am an active citizen in the same theme, the right for education. And one danger, and it has to do with the bubble we said before, it's to not be able, as an activist, to be aware of your stereotypes that you might have already inside you for the community that you are serving. I have very often see people who cannot see, they serve, they love, they do great things about, let's say, refugees, but they cannot see above the picture of a suffering person. This is what we talked before the other day, Ιδρυματισμός, how is the word?
Institutionalization.
Yes. And this has to do about the red line. We have to understand that in a way, solidarity stops to be being solidarity and becomes something toxic and takes energy and goals and the spirit and the visions they have from these people.
If I want to come back to your topic, if we want to talking about the system and how is the situation in the camp. Example, I stuck in Samos camp for 8 months and it was so bad experience because how I imagine Europe when I left Turkish, I see it's something different. When I come inside the camp, I see, whoa. It was very bad experience about 8 months, and as you say, how you can imagine for someone he stuck there for 3 years, if he have some skills or he work before, how he can continue his life and he come back to his story, how was it before. How I see I am the channels, we don't need to follow any system. It's how I see we need just the channels is two for me, the language and the communication, because the language, it's so difficult. It's like to be inside this community, you choose to live with it without to speak their language. And the communication also, because it's like we are from different culture, different background. We should to give us a time to find a way for communication and to expect everything and respect everything at the same time.
The main challenge for me is creating one sphere of discussion and debate, at least in our neighborhood. Managing, I don't know how and if we will ever achieve that, but this is my main aim, to manage to create a true sphere of discussion amongst all locals. And this means opening up both for the communities, for all communities, because basically they're all the Greek community, the first, the second generation, the refugees.
For us, a cultural center, because it is sustainability, because it's a grassroots organization, and how you develop to a level that, yes, it can kind of like be sustainable for many people. And as a cultural center, it was also my personal house somehow. It was a place where I could be creative, because I couldn't be creative and I could be sustainable in life through art, because I made a choice of living through the arts, and also I made a choice to be an activist and speak about political rights. So I wanted to have this as a medium of sustainability and also of a way to actually say something to the society. Generally, with the refugee crisis, I have a connection, and we've done projects, but my main focus was the African community. That was the problems that I see in the community. I could see that the disorientation and how disorganized things were, and my focus was in the African community, and how that too can enter into the community and create awareness. My biggest challenge was how to enter into that community, because nobody knew, even Africans don't know about their own community. But I believe that even Syrians might not know about their own community, even Greeks might not know about their own community. It's like that. So my challenge always was, how can I come in connection with them? How can I be more there and see and actually express to them that idea, the idea of the self-organization, of how they can utilize their capacities, their abilities, of how they can be well organized and represent themselves to the society, and not through an organization or through somewhere else. They could speak to the government directly. Sometimes they say that arts are not politics, but for me, arts is politics. It can convey clearly political ideas, and it can have a very focused, strategically political goal. Because when you're saying about empowerment, in my mind I have Black Panthers. They used to have societies, creating societies where youths were entering there, and they could learn how they could use the political board, or how they could get what they want through utilizing the governmental work space that exists. So for me, yes, it was and it is, and I think it's going to still be the biggest challenge of how that community can understand what we are trying to convey here.
Yeah, so my challenge, and I speak as someone who works in giving legal advice for the asylum process, is that, again, the state has designed like a very bureaucratic, complicated system. So our effort to break this barrier and find solutions on how you can do like a very simple procedure, or now during the pandemic, how to book an appointment in an office so that you can do the first step of this bureaucratic procedure. It takes so much energy out of us that it really leaves us drained. And if you're emotionally and practically drained, we and the people we work with, it's also harder to be active.
People want to do amazing things, but the amount we have to work in order to just survive means we barely have any time to breathe and time to do these things. It's a daydream I have sometimes when I'm looking out at the library, or I'm looking out at the Cora kitchen. I'm thinking, look what people want to do for each other. Look what they can. Look at the skills we have. Imagine what we could do if we weren't spending 40, 50, 60 hours a week just getting enough to pay our rent. It'd be amazing.
All right, let's try and wrap it up, because we talked about a lot of stuff. We talked about the challenges, but also the creativities of citizenship. We talked about both the politics and the poetics of belonging. But all of this is happening in this city. The city and its citizenships are never fixed or finished. They're constantly being remade, challenged, claimed, contested. So what is this city now at this moment? What is Athens to each of us? Elena.
It's a personal story that very often share. I was coming back from Germany by airplane, and you all have the experience. Above, you'll see all the countries, forests, lakes, squares, towns, very, very, very organized. And when you come to Greece, into Athens, it's a mess. Garbage areas, no rhythm at all. And back in the corner, you'll see Acropolis. And if you walk in the streets of Athens, it's a bad smell. There's all these graffitis. But if you sit in the center of Athens, in the Monastiraki, and you close your eyes, you'll feel this energy, and you'll see all this energy that people have. And it's a blessed, it's a dirty and awful town, but I'm really happy to be in Athens. It's something unique. Only if you live here, you understand about that.
I used always to go to the mountain of Acropolis. There is a mountain beneath Acropolis called Pnika. So in Pnika, you stay there and you can see the whole town, And I think like I'm kind of fascinated with RPG games and fantasy and a lot of things like that. So I'm like always like visualizing that it's a big labyrinth with a lot of, you know, doors to open, but you have to have the right key and know the right combination, and you have to, you know, like a wizard, find the secret box, where inside that secret box you can find the letter that says, you have to say the magic word, and then boom, and a door opens, and then an opportunity comes, and like it's a hidden, like it's a word that's kind of ugly, but beneath it, it's very beautiful. It's kind of like disguised. You don't know whom are you going to meet behind the door. And if you knock the door, you don't know, you have to know how you are going to, you know, interact, you know, or learn how to interact. But based on how you are interacting, boom, you have a bonus, or you don't have a bonus. You know, like something magical, where it depends on how you think, things can be achieved or not.
I'm from London, and I spend all my time on the tube, going huge distances to get everywhere, and you know, you meet a friend and you meet them in a pub, random place, don't know anyone, it's new, always new. Whereas Athens, I feel like I know who's gonna be where. I'm like, oh yeah, it's my friend who lives in the square. Oh yeah, I just bumped into, like, it's always Despina down there on the other bit of the square, and you can always have a chat with her, and you know, you go down the street and then you see, you know your neighborhood, you know your neighbors, and you know where your non-playable character's gonna sit for a little chat all the time. I love that.
Actually, how I see Athens, for me, it's like I start to see myself here. I start to feel belong to this city. And as we say in our Arab country, it's like Egyptian, the mother of the world. But how I see now, and I am very sure about it, that Greece is the mother of the world. Because if you try to walk just in Afternoon Street, you will hear it's like around 20 different languages for just 3 minutes. Yeah, it's something very big for me, and I am so happy to be here. But when someone he asks me, you will live here? When I say to him, yes, he starts, it's like get crazy. I don't know why, but I love the weather, I love the culture, I love the history for Greece, and it's like make me feel proud. Harika.
For me, Athens is like, yeah, it's a vivid mosaic that I love to hate. And parts of this mosaic are languages and different foods and things that have made me so much more of an enriched citizen through the time. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. From my point of view, Athens is a part of my identity. I have been born here and raised in the countryside. I have spent almost all my life here, but also my grandparents were born here in Athens. I have heard stories from my grandparents about the Athens of 1930s, almost 1 century ago, and how this city was a big village, as we could say. Nothing that can connect this period of time with nowadays, but what connect this period of time with nowadays is people, and how people can evolve within the city, but also influence the identity of the city, what we can do, and how ourselves define also our neighborhoods, because the neighborhood, it's not the buildings, but it's the people who live within them.
I have a lot to say about Athens. That's why it's difficult to choose one thing. Also because I'm not Athenian in this sense. I'm becoming Athenian, as all of us together, I guess. I'm from a small town. I grew up there in Trikala, and I'm very proud for my origin, and I always tell Athenians that they should not talk about Vlachi, Vlacha, with a bad connotation, because I'm one. I am one. My grandmother used to speak a different language. She used to speak Vlachica, which is very close to Romanian as a language link. So I think that Athens is a true city. It has a very cruel but also very beautiful truth, and you can see it everywhere, and that's what I like about Athens. You can see it in the streets. I am one of the people that actually adore the fact of the chaos with the graffitis in the streets, because I think it's a direct dialogue. And one of the things in Elpido Street, where Victoria Square project is, there was this small slogan written down on the wall saying Victoria Ghetto. And suddenly, after some days, I saw ghetto being erased and somebody writing above it, City Victoria. And to my surprise, it was one of our favorite students that did it from the second high school of Victoria, who said, I saw it and I was like, I'm not going to accept that. We are not a ghetto. And so I'm one of the people that believe in this truth. And I don't feel the smells. I don't look for them. I don't think of them. I think of what is emerging. And if we will stay sincere towards our identities and we don't try to eliminate them for once again, as it happened 200 years ago when suddenly everything was eliminated from the Greek cultures that coexisted together in order to create a contemporary clean state under the Parthenon, I hope that this time we will not do it. I hope that Athens will accept and create a new identity. And that's what I'm looking for.
Πολύ ελπιδοφόρο είναι αυτό. Μπράβο. All right, we'll stop there. Bravo, Mas. That was a great conversation. Thank you so much.